I'm Diana of Be4STEM, and I welcome you to today's lesson on the STEM careers involved in material science. So, as the background for our study of materials, we use our book where the career crew helps to win a fun run as a school fundraiser. And I wrote this book based on experience of watching some kids win a fun run, and I came up with the idea of how my career crew would go to the lab and test materials to help them do that. It is one of my favorite things, testing materials, and I've got a lot of little materials here, and there's so many different ways to test them. But the career of the week that we're going to focus on this week is design engineer. And to do the design engineering, the real lesson that we're going to focus on is building a pet home that would make your pet have the best habitat possible and keep him safest in his environment. So we'll get back to that in a minute. But before you can do that, you've got to test the materials to see what would work best in his pet home. So there's a number of different ways, and I have a number of different lessons to do that. And I'll just show you a smattering of how you could start getting your brain all warmed up about what materials would be best for your pet's home. All right, well, let's start out here in the front. So these are a lot of different little pieces of objects, but they all break down into the 6 basic materials that we use. And if you have a cupcake holder that holds 6 slots, you could separate all of those into these 6 categories, which are cloth, metal, paper, plastic, rubber, ceramic. So say you had a rock. Well, what is that the closest to? The closest it's to, there's a little rock on here somewhere, hiding. That would be closest to ceramic. This little button seems to be plastic, so you'd put that in that bin. Now, metal. What's the best way to test for metals? Well, the best way for me that I've found to test for metals is the old magnetic wand. So, okay, look at this for a minute and just predict which of these do you think is going to, as I kind of peruse. Oh, I accidentally got one already. I got a paper clip. So that's definitely metal. Is there anything else on here that's metal? All right, let me scan across. And you can do this in any kind of container or on any kind of surface, or even in a test tube with tiny items, and that would be fun. But let's see what we got after scanning. Oh, there's that little rock, by the way. There's the rock I was looking for. All right, let's see what we ended up with. Well, all the pipe cleaners have a metal core that their little chenille fabric is wrapped around, and of course the paper clips were metal. So the chenille really falls into 2 categories because that's fabric and metal. So we do have like multi-purpose ones, and we have another. This is a little piece of tile that could be used to build a home, or at least decorate the home inside. And where would that go here? And that would go with the one most like rock also, because that's usually made from ground sand and compressed together. Where would a rubber band go? We could use rubber sometimes, like a raincoat. That might give a good surface, depending on what we need. The feathers would probably end up with the cloth. So there you have an example. And where would our old popsicle stick go? Yep, paper. So we had an example of each there. But when it comes to your pet, we need to think about more than just that, because if we're going to build our pet a good home, we want to make sure that we have a good roof to protect it from rain, and then some walls that would protect it from snow and sun and wind and predators. Those are all the things we have to think about in designing our best home. So then we better do a little more testing. It's good to know what's metallic and what's not, but we also need to think about weight and waterproofing materials. So that's where our next test comes in. We can move this one out of the way and replace that with a way to test for waterproofing. There's a number of different ways to do that. If we wanted to use fabric, of course, that's a simple test where we just need to fill a pipette, test for water. What happens? Sometimes you can put water on a surface and it looks like it would roll off, but if you let it sit there a while, just because a surface is shiny doesn't mean that it'll roll off. This was a little resistant at first, but then it sunk in, and you wouldn't want to make a quick decision because we need to know if it's going to roll off or if it's going to sink in. So you need to give those a little time. And then there's one, we have one of these we've seen before in a previous video. This is one of those nano fabrics. And you'll come across something about a nano fabric when you do the examples that go with the Fun Run book. So that's one thing that you can test, a way to test your fabrics. But there's also another fun way. When was the last time you saw a balance scale? And what can we use that for? Well, if your pet's home needs to be light, but, let's see if any of it is magnetic. Anything in here magnetic? We need to know if it's going to attach to some. Oh, that little jingle bell is. And then we've got several other materials in there. Let's take them out one by one. All right, we want to know if they're waterproof. Are they going to sink or are they going to float when we put them in some water? So you can add lots of water or just a little at first. But if they're going to float, then if this was going to flood, we'd want the whole thing to be able to float away to a dry place, right? But if it's going to, so you'd put the ones you think are going to float on one side and the ones you think are going to sink on the other side. Let's see, they both have water in them. Is that going to sink or float? It's got holes in it. Seems pretty heavy. What about the ping pong ball? We need a little more water to tell. How about this heavy, just rubber ball? Well, that would sure repel water, and it looks like it'd sink hard. And we got to be careful if it's magnetic. We don't want to get it near power lines. But that's sort of like the ping pong ball, and it has. So if you're trying to balance two sides of your house, you'd want to get these on equal sides. And then, of course, we have fabric. Oh, we have a little plastic ball. Would that sink or float? We put a lot more water in here, and we could tell fast, couldn't we? I have a marble. That's glass. Would you want to build your pet's home out of glass? I wonder. Oh, a soft puff ball. Maybe we would want to use that for the interior. Well, so there's lots of fabrics, and if we put all the water we have in one side, if we don't need to balance it out at this point, then we can just put all the rest of our water in here and put them all together and see if it looks like they'd sink or float. And then we can tell. Looks like all these guys are going to sink today, except the ping pong ball. So some light plastic. Oh, and the puff ball. That's gonna float too. The plastic puff ball's gonna float, but everybody else sank. So that just gives you some ideas of how you could come across designing your pet's home, and then you would put down the materials you think are best over here, begin a design, and then find those materials that would best build it. And I'd love to see how each one came out, because you know everyone would be different. So those are the ways that you can implement testing for materials just to get a good start going. And then you think of some more serious things that you'd want to test and come up with your own experiments to test them. So we hope you have fun doing that, and let us know how it goes. And be sure to find us at our website or on Teacher Pay Teacher at Be4STEMinc.com. Thanks for being with us today, and we'll see you again real soon.